Hi there, beer nerds. It's Ryan with Beer by the Numbers, and I'm coming at you today not to really do a channel year in review, but instead, I really want to focus on all the crazy changes and cool things that happened in 2017 for the beer industry as a whole. And I found some great numbers today, but before we get into those, we can't talk beer unless we're drinking some. So today I have for us the Iowa Pale Ale from Millstream Brewing Company in Iowa, and it's an India Pale Ale. Get it? IPA. They did a nice little play on that there. And I actually got this through a Christmas beer exchange I did on Reddit. And so it was really cool to get some beers out of Iowa, actually. And this is from Amana, Iowa. So we're going to get this in a glass, and then we'll get started on a year in review. You know, I was so excited and thankful that so many people wanted to hang out and talk beer with me this year because, you know, at a certain point, my friends really get enough of me just yammering on about different types of hops and what in the world the independent brewing movement's going to do versus the big beer vendors. And it's really just great to connect with so many of you out there online. So thank you so much for a really fun year when it comes to that. Yeah, and this beer is super tasty. Just a classic West Coast style IPA. Tons of pine. A pretty good malt backbone in there too, but nothing that's going to overshadow those hops. And you can see a nice deep color on that you get from an IPA, and almost no haze, so it's pretty clear, pretty West Coast. Has a nice lazy head, and I love it. I love this beer that I got sent. Anyway, I want to get into some cool stats and things I found about 2017, because a lot of great things happened in the beer industry, especially here in the United States. And the first one is really that the United States passed the 6,000 brewery mark in 2017. And 98% of those are small and independent craft brewers. And that's so cool because, you know, now about 83 to 85% of people live within 10 miles of a craft brewery, which is really cool. And, you know, we've never had this level of penetration of local beer before. And I just think it's amazing and I love it. So go out, try to find new breweries. We got 6,000 of them to support now. So really, let's drink local in 2018 here. And all those breweries translated to a lot of jobs, actually. So in the 50 states and the District of Columbia, there are about 456,000 full-time jobs. And then there's a bunch of part-time jobs on top of that. So this industry is actually becoming a pretty big sector of the economy. It's really cool to see how many people are really impacted by a love of beer. And those brewers contributed, let's see what it says here, about $67.8 billion to the U.S. economy, which is great. Glad to see beer taking off like this. And then the Brewers Association this year actually launched their Independent Craft Brewer Seal. So this seal is designed to educate beer lovers about which beers are independently produced. I think I have a video, maybe even two at this point, on what I think about this seal. I tend to like it because, you know, the Brewers Association is really frustrated with AB InBev and the other mega brewing corporations buying up craft brewers and trying to hide behind those brands and call themselves craft. Well, you know, this independent beer seal is really their counter to that. And apparently, according to the Brewers Association website, more than 2,700 breweries have signed up to include that seal on some of their packaging or at their breweries. And that represents more than 75% of domestic craft beer volume here in the United States. And then the other cool thing that happened this year was the Take Craft Back campaign, which I also did a video on. But that was a kind of a tongue-in-cheek crowdfunding campaign to raise the whopping sum of $213 billion in order to buy AB InBev. Now, obviously, it was a bit of a joke because there is no way you'd be able to crowdfund that much money ever, but they did use it to give away a lot of free swag. I got myself a free t-shirt from it, actually, and nearly 12,000 beer lovers pledged their support in that campaign. So it was kind of cool, a nice little marketing campaign. We'll see how much progress they make on their goal there. Another cool thing that happened a little bit more on the political front here in the United States is the Craft Beer Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act, which is currently making its way through Congress. It's got bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate. If passed, this bill is going to be an amendment to the federal excise tax that the first 60,000 barrels of any domestic brewery's production would have a lower tax rate than the other barrels they would produce. So obviously that would really, really help small brewers get off the ground, reducing their tax burden. And it's really kind of cool to see how legislatures on both sides of the aisle, all throughout the country, are really recognizing what, the beer industry has been telling them for years, and that is craft brewing is going to be a way to bring jobs locally and really reinvigorate a sector of the economy. Another really cool stat I found was that home brewing is becoming really, really popular. There are an estimated 1.1 million home brewers in the United States this year that produced 1.4 million barrels of beer, which actually equaled 1% of U.S. beer production. Think about that. 1% of the millions and millions of barrels of beer produced in the United States came out of people's homes. And so that's really, really cool. And the American Homebrewers Association continues to see its membership climb. On their website here, it says their beer competition had 8,600 entries into their main homebrewing competition this year, which smashed the previous records. And then they got 3,500 international entries as well. So homebrewing obviously going very, very strong here in the U.S., and that's so great. Beercations and beer travel have also become a really big thing in 2017. Beer tourism shows that the average craft beer drinker, like myself, visits 3.5 breweries near their homes and 2.5 breweries within 2 hours driving distance every year. And a survey said that 64% of travelers seek out breweries or tap rooms while they're in a different area of town. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I go to way more breweries than that. I think when I went to Denver this year, and I have a video about that too, but when I went to Denver, I think we hit 11 breweries in about 3 or 4 days. So I guess I was hitting the trip average in a single day. So that's pretty good. And finally, brewers gave back really, really strong in 2017. It's estimated that about $73 million have been donated to charity in 2017 from brewers to all sorts of great charitable causes for almost anything you can think of. And that's up from $71 million in 2014. So it's been very, very cool to see how much, not only is craft beer succeeding, but they're giving back at a record pace and are really showing that they love the communities that love them. And then the final cool story I have, this one is actually an international story, but I think it's really, really cool because beer does have a bit of a recycling problem, generate a lot of bottles and cans, things like that. And while recycling most of the time does really good, I think New Zealand has really, really found a great way to do it. And they've started paving roads with used beer bottles. So all of the beer bottles coming from DB Breweries in New Zealand, which is one of the best known beer brands there, got smashed up into a really, really fine powder and then spread in asphalt as part of the sand. Apparently they made about 100 tons of export bottle sand this year, and then they used that to pave a road near Auckland on the North Island. And so that just sounds really cool. And I hope we do something similar here in the U.S. or even around the world, just to take something that's normally industrial waste, or we have to find another creative way to recycle these things, and really move it into something that builds good infrastructure for our community. So that's all the cool facts I had about the beer industry in 2017. Did you learn anything cool in 2017 about beer? Please let me know in the comments below. This has been Ryan with Beer by the Numbers, and I look forward to another great year of beer content, about chatting about beer, and just enjoying beer. Cheers.